Welcome to the Frank and Lizzie Show. We are here live in the live studio at SAWC Spring 2025. The Frank and Lizzie Show love to show innovation, new products, and the latest research. I am Frank Avalos.
And I'm Lizzie. Today we're diving into the exciting and transforming topic of the rise of synthetics. And today we are honored to have back AJ Ford, the CEO of ETS.
That's right, Lizzie. We are so thrilled to be talking about Mirragen by ETS, BBGFM. Just know that. And so obviously there's been a lot about camps, a lot of going on. So I'm glad that we have ETS here with us today.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us back. Must have done something right the first time.
Well, yeah. So last year at SAWC, we interviewed you and Dr. Young, and we talked about, just the mechanism of action and what makes it unique and kind of how synthetic is different. And now we have some exciting news in terms of an RCT.
You sure do.
Yes. Or I should say a second RCT.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. And so last time you were in our show, by the way, I was impressed. We were talking about the unique properties of BBGFM. And so I've been practicing that.
We can say Mirragen. It's
We're
not
getting
like
there. We're getting
Yeah. Mary, well, we're going to talk about camps, CTPs, and all that.
No,
so I
just
want to
Mirragen.
yeah. And you are still my BFF.
Okay.
So anyway, but we were talking about the ESA application, the inhibition of colonization, and also the great granulation. And I have an update for everybody. The package is easy to open. It's not Frank-proof anymore. And
That was much better this time.
Yeah, that's good.
And so we're going to talk about this product today.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Well, I'd say in terms of synthetics, we've seen a tremendous increase in interest, in adoption, speaking to the lack of colonization that you talked about, the inhibition of colonization. I think that's part of the big interest. Folks are working with more difficult to heal wounds, and there's some level of contamination, colonization, and maybe even outright infection. So to have something that's more resistant, that's category of synthetics, is of significant intrigue.
So we certainly had a lot of conversations about skin subs, CTPs, camps, whatever you want to call it, And so let's talk about now BBGFM.
We're getting there. You get the BFF part. Yeah, so Borate-Based Bioactive Glass Fiber Matrix, or BBGFM, is a category of its own. There isn't another bioactive glass wound care product on the market. We were the first and still only 510K approved product as a bioactive glass. It is incredibly unique. Not only does it provide this scaffold for cellular infiltration, providing a place for those native cells, but because it's bioactive glass, as it incorporates, it still does something else. And that something else is largely creating this wound environment conducive to angiogenesis. That is so important to the granulation that you mentioned earlier. Quality matters. So just having granulation could be bad. It could be hypergranulation. It could be very friable tissue. But instead, if you create this really great blood supply, because you have this angiogenic activity, we're doing something that is in it for the long haul. We're creating this more stable, well-vascularized granulation tissue.
So we had the honor of sitting in on your innovation lunch yesterday and hearing the results of the second RCT, which are very impactful, and I'm very excited to bring it to the audience. So can you just give a great overview of kind of like the study design, the wound type, how many people you had enrolled, all of those things?
Yeah, so we studied diabetic foot ulcers, full thickness. We looked at it over 12 weeks, and that's pretty standard for any of the diabetic foot ulcer randomized controlled trials, but truly this was an RCT. We went much bigger this time around. In our first RCT, we studied 40 patients, and in this one, 148.
Oh,
so
wow.
Some massive RCT, a multi-year effort. We are so incredibly proud, not just to be done, but to have some tremendous work. So in terms of study design, yes, 12 weeks, diabetic foot ulcers, full thickness, and the primary endpoint was proportion of subjects healed, or closed, I should say, at 12 weeks.
Yeah.
And what was the control? Because I feel like standard of care for some is like gauze, and it's like, well, yeah, you can do better than gauze, but Like, what did you use as yours?
I think we did it right in this one because we did a lot more than just gauze. We looked at standard of care for offloading. If you're not doing proper offloading, this doesn't make for a very impactful study.
Right.
So offloading was either the foot defender boot, which, by the way, is a little bit more robust than most RCTs would study. Most of them are just going to do TCC. So we did foot defender. If they couldn't do a foot defender for some reason, then it was TCC. Sure, there was a secondary absorbent dressing foam wrapped with gauze. And then in the control group was a collagen alginate. So instead of Mirragen in the treatment group, you had a collagen alginate. So I think we really did standard of care justice.
Yeah, more of like an advanced dressing then. That's good.
Now, I do have a question. While I was listening to the great speakers, they mentioned modified intent to treat group. Can you tell us what that was about?
Yeah, so there's a couple populations within a study, and it is really important to identify modified intent to treat versus per protocol. Now, the modified intent to treat group, which was 133 patients, you could call that a little bit more real world. It's not as selective, and that's where some studies maybe aren't, they don't have the same objectivity. Per protocol can sometimes be a bit picky, and you can pick which results you like. I think it's really important that we talked about both. So the modified intent to treat group with 133 patients, we saw statistically significant results. 48% of subjects in the Mirragen group healed versus 24% in the standard of care. That is statistically significant. Now, it is important to still talk about per protocol because that is what happens when somebody truly followed the protocol, as the name implies. In that group, which was 82 subjects, 73% of patients closed at 12 weeks versus 42% in the standard of care. These were truly statistically significant primary endpoints.
Wow. Because that's really great data to submit to the FDA on treating DFUs.
Absolutely. FDA pre-commercially, but since we have clearance, now CMS. Look at everything that's happening in terms of the policy. This is really important for payers. And I shouldn't just say Medicare. Yes, that's a very large patient population that you all are dealing with, but commercial payers too. This is the data that they're looking for.
Great. Well, outside of the research, which is amazing, I also want to hear from an expert in the field, and I'm so excited to be able to welcome Dr. Marc Gitterle with us. So he's the co-founder and chief medical officer of Woundcentrics, and he was also part of the RCT. So welcome, Dr. Gitterle.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it was a privilege to be a part of the RCT, and I can attest that it was a very rigorous RCT. It was a pleasure to work with the team from ETS. And it was almost frustratingly rigorous, you know.
I love that.
In a way that,
I love that.
They're not, they aren't always. So yes.
You're welcome.
But so no, and it's been an exciting journey for me. I whimsically say sometimes that I need like a team of bodyguards to protect me from camp, companies. Because we're just hit up all the time. And so I look for really well-differentiated things. And so in 2019, I encountered Mirragen and I, read about the pleiotropic, the multiple effects at the tissue level. It got me excited, but you don't know until you actually use the product, right?
Seeing is believing.
So I was able to use it and sort of rapidly convince myself that this was a disruptive innovation in matrix products. So if you have, I think we have some cases we can show, and I think what it illustrates is, as a CMO, I need to operationalize things that I know can do the job for conforming LCD compliant cases, but we also have cases, they don't all come in that nice sanitized, everything controlled, right?
Yeah.
And so it's great to have something that I know is going to work for very compliant, very conforming cases, and also really extraordinary cases where we've got, surgical complications, deep sinus tracts, co-infections, osteomyelitis, the edge of limb salvage. And so that has been just a pleasure. And again, this is a disruptive game changer, and there's no other way to put it.
Something that you brought up was like the fact that these are real world patients, and it's not just, I feel like everybody's chasing DFUs now
Yes,
as part of that LCD, right?
Yep,
But
me too.
that's
Yeah.
a portion of our patient population.
Yeah, right.
And really our pain points
Yep.
probably aren't as much just DFUs, but like the whole gamut.
Right,
And certainly to
exactly.
be patient centric,
Yes.
giving them something that's efficient. And, you know, it's hard sometimes to just listen to coverage, right? Doing the right thing. But yeah, you talked about some extraordinary cases that you were going to share with us. So let's dive into them.
All right. So the first case that I think our audience is seeing is a dorsal diabetic foot ulcer with extensive tendon exposure. So that would be a non-compliant, case. That's, more extraordinary
Not
case.
included in the study.
Not included.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It would have been excluded right off the bat.
Right off,
And
yeah.
what I like about both of these cases is they illustrate the kinds of cases that go to amputation, perfunctory amputation decisions. So this patient was actually scheduled for the OR for the next day, and I got consulted, as
Your Hail Mary.
Yeah, right, exactly. And it actually took me a little while to convince the patient and the family that, to give us a try. But you can see, from the before and after that not only were we able to achieve closure in this patient, but it really was one of the early cases that taught me that this is doing different things at the tissue level. And the robustness of the granulation, and then the robustness of the closure, the epithelialization, and the final closure and the maturation is really extraordinary.
Chef's kiss. Yeah.
Chef's kiss.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the other case is a lateral foot ulcer where the fifth MTP joint was completely obliterated by osteomyelitis. So in that situation, you're forced to create kind of an arthrodesis. You remove the joint. It becomes a cavity. What do you do with that? If you take a typical amniotic product, it's really not going to be a scaffold at that scale.
Right.
So I thought, this is a good case to try for, Mirragen, because I was able to completely fill the space. That wound was epithelializing. That cavity, joint is gone, epithelializing in 4 weeks.
Wow.
And the patient doesn't have a floppy joint there. That is such well consolidated tissue. No one would guess, examining that patient, that joint had been, removed.
That's awesome.
No, I like that. With your extensive experience that you have in all the centers and all the products you've used, where do you think Mirragen is going to be in the future?
I see a bright future, I think, because I think as more and more people trial this, they'll see these distinctives. And I think the infection story is really also going to, be heard. And that's one of the things that derails these cases. Everything's going well. And then, an infection arises. And, if you look at the data, it's quite common over a 1 month scale, the number of patients that will eventually develop an infection. And these are 12-week horizons sometimes. But we're able to close them quicker with Mirragen and without that, surprise, oh, we got an infection, we can't apply it now, and, we got to hospitalize the patient.
Smell them when they come into clinic. Yeah.
So, yeah.
From down the hallway?
Yeah. You're like,
Some of them.
we're going to go ahead and book you in this room. Yeah.
But I have a testimonial, and actually I didn't share this with you, and it just happened. So this is actually news also. I have a patient that I've been following back in Louisiana. I moved, and so when he has problems, he calls me. Well, he called me the other day, and I just told AJ just a minute ago that when he called me, he said, I have 2 wound care physicians, 2 facilities that want to amputate my leg. They said there's no more. And he's had a wound. He's been battling it for a while. We healed him. And anyway, so we sent him to a provider. 3 weeks later, he calls me, same patient, said, I'm healed. And I said, well, what did they use on you? And he said, they used glass. Would you believe that? And I'm like, no, it's BBGFM.
BBGFM.
Nailed it.
It's not a CTC, it's not a PANS, it's BBGFM. And so that, just to attest to it, I was looking forward to your RCT because I've seen it firsthand now.
Yeah.
And that's why I think this nice balance of rigorous scientific evidence balance the patient stories. I mean, these are great stories where people are in their last leg of desperation. I mean, the last leg was, that's another.
I got it.
Every time I'm on this show, I have an unintended pun. But truly, it's a really powerful thing for limb salvage. And I love these stories as much as I love the rigorous RCTs. Probably more.
Yeah.
Well, your commitment to excellence, I think, is showing in terms of like being able to bring us the second RCT and really enter into the market so that it's accessible for people to order, provide, get coverage. You know, integrating it into the workflow and the logistics of it is just as important as the science behind it, it seems nowadays. So
wholeheartedly agree. We are really proud that even before the proposed LCD came out, we had initiated this second DFU RCT. So we were doing it for the right reasons because clinical evidence is incredibly important. It instills confidence in providers. And so I'd like to think that we started this for the right reasons and then hopefully are rewarded because we got a head start before the proposed LCD. And now we have time to publish before the LCD goes into effect as of now, January 2026.
Oh, that's exciting.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, we do want to thank you for being here. I am excited about this disruptive, this new game changer product. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
And for everybody else, just make sure that you follow us, subscribe, so you can see these innovations because these products are saving limbs.
Yeah. And
So.
for more information on Mirragen, you can visit ets123.com.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, guys.
Again.
Thank you. Pleasure.